Scott Besson, Secretary of the Treasury, was in front of, which committee is this?
Ways and Means Committee.
In the Ways and Means Committee. As they sell this reconciliation bill to the American public, they are just, person after person is being sent out to basically tell lies about it. The lies of 1.4 million undocumented immigrants on Medicaid. No, that's not true. Medicaid are statutorily banned undocumented immigrants. There are, in 14 states around the country, public programs to provide health care for immigrants because at the end of the day, it's cheaper on the public coffers. And I would also imagine some people actually think that, like, well, they're here, they're working, maybe, those 7 guys who are working on that roofers company, maybe they should get health care. What happens if they're sick? It's going to hurt your business, buddy.
Maybe they should just, be part of the community officially. I don't know.
But that's 14. They lie about that. They lie about the idea that there are 4 million strapping young men who just decide, I don't want to work. I don't want to make any money, but I'm super, super concerned about my health. And so I still want to be able to go in for my annual physical. They lie about that, and now they're lying about just the basic math of their bill, which is that it increases the deficit astronomically. And Scott Besson rolls out an oldie but goodie. Here he is being asked, what number is this? Representative Mike Thompson from California asked him this question in the hearing.
Mr. Secretary, can you point to one independent study, one study performed by an expert PhD economist who is not on the payroll of this administration that says that this legislation will not add to our national debt?
Well, Congressman, if...
Yes or no? Can you point to one?
If we want to look at the CBO, which...
No, I'm asking you, is there an independent expert that you can point to that says that this bill will not add to our national debt? Yes or no?
Yes.
There is?
Yes.
What are they?
Art Laffer.
Pardon me?
Art Laffer.
Art Laffer? Great. That, I don't think that one counts.
Now, you see everybody laughing. Even Besant himself, go back to just when he says Art Laffer. Even Besant himself almost cracks up in saying this because Art Laffer is so discredited in both parties at this point. Just watch Besant's face when he says it.
Is there an independent expert that you can point to that says that this bill will not add to our national debt? Yes or no?
Yes.
There is?
Yes.
What are they?
Art Laffer.
Pardon me?
Art Laffer.
Look at his face. He can't say it the second time without cracking a smile. Scott Besant never, ever cited Art Laffer before this moment. This is the first time in his life. Who is Art Laffer? If you've listened to this program for any amount of time, it is it's almost offensive to me that you don't know who he is. But Art Laffer was one of the architects of supply side economics, which as far back as 1980, George Herbert Walker Bush called voodoo economics. Here's Austin Goolsbee in terms of what he talks about, what is about the Laffer curve. The Laffer curve is a theory that if you go up, no, don't put that up yet. If you go up on an axis, that the further you increase taxes, the less people want to work. and that if you raise taxes, that there's a point where people stop working. Now, I'm sure anecdotally there are instances where there are somehow like, multi-hundred millionaires who would say like, I think I'm going to retire early because I'm only making 90 cents. I'm only making 10 cents on the dollar for every dollar I earn over, $5 million. But the Laffer curve has one other element. It says that if you cut taxes, you will necessarily get more revenue. Why? Because by cutting taxes in any amount, it's going to create more economic activity. You're going to get more growth, and you will get more taxes paid in volume.
Get abundance.
You get more taxes paid in volume because, rich people will be paying a less of a percentage of their income, but they're going to be making so much more money that they're going to end up paying more in taxes. Here's how Austin Goolsbee, and I'm not a huge fan of his, frankly, but here's how he says, they looked at, they asked people if they...
Yeah, this is a sort of a poll of a whole bunch of economists, Goolsbee just being one of them. So here's their sort of pithy responses to what the Laffer curve is.
Moon landing was real. Evolution exists. Tax cuts lose revenue. The research has shown this 1,000 times enough already. So the point being, okay, yeah, here's another guy, David Autor. Not aware of any evidence in recent history where tax cuts actually raise revenue. Sorry, Laffer. Chicago Booth may look plausible on a cocktail napkin or a cocktail party, but not true empirically in the U.S. That was the Laffer curve, was famously drawn on a cocktail napkin. Keep going. Chicago Booth, Richard Thaler. That's a Laffer.
There you go.
I mean, but we also have a very explicit real-world example, and it is called the state of Kansas. And in 2012, Sam Brownback became governor of Kansas, and he brought in Arthur Laffer to be his top advisor. And they went on a whole project of cutting taxes. And Matt, I want you to Google the Kansas Art Laffer experiment and show me what the headlines are. Because after cutting taxes, the Republican-controlled Senate and Assembly in Kansas realized that it was a disaster. And now everybody's now caught on to this. But maybe you can go back, just go back like 5 years so that you see this.
As Trump proposes tax cuts, Kansas deals with aftermath.
Yes, this is all people now writing about the actual. I want to see contemporaneous headlines, because what happened in Kansas with this experiment, you got to go back, do like a time set. So just do like 2015. What happened after 2 years was that they were so decimated, revenue was so decimated in Kansas, and they had to cut deeply into the Kansas higher education system there, destroying what was one of like the crown jewel of Kansas. They had to cut on education so deeply that a completely Republican-controlled House and Assembly raised taxes. And Sam Brownback was so utterly disgraced and so utterly hated. The Great Kansas Tea Party disaster, that's back in 2014. It was so thoroughly debunked and destroyed that they actually appointed in the Trump administration Sam Brownback to be ambassador to faith, so that he could actually be jettisoned up into the ether, and we would never hear from him again. And the idea that they are basing this on Art Laffer and the Laffer curve, they want what is known as dynamic scoring. They have some theory that if you cut taxes, it's going to raise revenue. Because people are going to work more and try and make more money, because now that they're making 70% or 80% of their money instead of like 35, instead of like 65 or 75%. They're going to make so much more money.
You know how out of touch you have to be to think it's the tax rate and not like your rent and expenses? That
Well, but they're talking about rich people.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
They're talking about rich people.
Who can relate to that?
And the thing is that empirically it's been shown over and over and over and over and over again that this is not true. That Art Laffer is wrong. That when you cut taxes, you don't necessarily raise revenues. It's just not true. And particularly when you top load these taxes, which like these are. Because as they say, a rich man buys one loaf of bread at a time. They're just using that money to generate, basically to buy stocks. Which, of course, these wealthy people, what they do with their stocks now, they buy the stocks, or they get them as compensation from their companies. Their stock increases in value. It is not taxed until they sell it. They don't sell it, and then they borrow against it, and they keep taking loans against it. And the loan costs them 3%. Because they get a favorable deal. Meanwhile, their stock portfolio is going up by 5% or 8% or 9% or 10%. They don't get taxed on their loans. And that's how they just live.
But do you think because like rich people find these ways to like not pay taxes, that these people are like had seen, oh, like when the tax rate's higher, it's the rich people are making less money, or something? Like they can't. That's the uber wealthy. I mean, there's still. I mean, obviously, if rich people are paying less in taxes, they're paying less in taxes. They're not taking all. Exactly. All their compensation is not all from stocks. They're still getting some cash. But it's like a dummy just like saw tax returns and was like, oh, look, they're making less money. Like, no, they're not making less money when the tax rate's higher. They're just going to greater length to cheat. No,
Laffer is this is just a theory that he came up with. There's no empirical basis for any of this.
It's motivated reasoning is what it is.
Totally. So Basant, embarrasses himself, but he doesn't care. I mean, this is going to be about basically mowing through the parliamentarian. They can't get the CBO to do their dynamic scoring. And so now they're going to have to just basically pretend that it doesn't increase the deficit, doesn't increase the debt. It's all just going to be a lie. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.